We have in the studio, of course, our guest, Brigadier General Sani Kukasheka Usman, retired. He is a security expert, former director of Army Public Relations and spokesman for the Nigerian Army. Also a writer and resourceful person. He has, I think he did a lot.
It's a name that needs no introduction.
Indeed,
really.
Information and services, of course, he did that. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. Good morning.
It's good to have you. So with all of this, happening, what was the first thing that just came to your mind when you heard that 137 school children, the people that were abducted, were rescued?
Actually, it was mind-boggling, and especially if you look at what has been happening for the past 10 years since the abduction of Chibok school girls. We ought to have learned so many lessons, and I kept on imagining for those who have children at home, managing, let's say, 2, 3, or 4 children in a parlor, as it is. It's always a Herculean task, especially when they're underage and all the rest. So here you are, over 100. You had them like sheep or cows, and given the number of people, along the line, and nobody has had or had an inkling of what happened. But I think let's not belabor the issue. The most important thing is that they have been rescued as it is, and I think that calls for joy and gratitude to God and all those people that have a hand in bringing them back to safety. I think that's the most important thing, and it goes a long way to also show one thing, that with leadership, concern, and cooperation, we can do a lot in this country. And this seems to be lacking over the past times. Take, for instance, the issue of Chibok school girls. It took such a long time for people to understand, what was going on. The starting point is for you to acknowledge something, then of course do something about it. And now the whole segment of Nigerian society, right from the president, the state governor, the security agencies, everybody were all on the same page, and that has led to what we have gotten within the last 2 days. And I was made to understand, even there was the security agencies were up and doing, to the point that they followed and monitored. They know exactly, with use of modern technology, where they were, and that gave them an upper hand. And of course, the criminal elements that abducted them had no choice other than to succumb to, what happened. So I think it's something that we should learn lesson. In the first place, it shouldn't have happened, and I think we should not allow such unprecedented number of abduction to take place in this country. At
the risk of belaboring the issue, while Nigerians celebrate on one hand the release or rescue, which I think I would love to get your take on this one, most people are scratching their head with regards to how this could have happened. They were safely rescued, 137 of them. We understand that the teacher, unfortunately, lost his life. Where do you stand as someone who has had to handle information like this in the past, with regards to what to tell the public and how much of that detail they should know? Nigerians are scratching their head about how this could have happened, because there's no announcement of a terrorist being neutralized, people being arrested. How could this have happened? Give us an understanding, because the DHQ is saying it was a rescue effort that led to this, development. On the other hand, we have the Kaduna state government saying that the students have been released, suggesting that maybe it was due to some kind of negotiation or something like that, when the government was very clear that there will be no negotiations, no ransom to be paid for these students. What can you tell us about how some of these things might appear to look questionable, but there's a logical explanation to it?
And when you are faced with a complex situation as such, the tendency of people not being focused on the realities of, and I will give you an example. A while ago, I think I monitored a news story over one of the radio stations, and one of the eyewitnesses was precise on the number of the bandits that came to abduct about 20 people. He said they were on 120 motorcycles and all the rest. And I kept on asking myself, where was he seated or standing and he counted that number of bandits and their motorcycle? And you can go back in time to understand most of these eyewitnesses, they tend to be more accurate in the number of bandits and their motorcycles or even gun trucks, so to speak, but not the number of victims. And the second issue is that some time ago also I was the problem of data in this country is something that not data that you browse. No, I'm talking about statistics. I was trying to find out how many broadcast stations do we have in this country, television and radio, both online and of course, like yours now. I mean, honestly, you hardly get that. That is the problem. So it was difficult even in the first place to know the number of people that were abducted. So for you to have come up with real figure is always difficult. So those are the circumstances. But by and large, the truth always is the best. Now, we should have interrogated the nominal role of the school, both the secondary and the primary school. But of course, in a situation like that, hardly there will be, such records.
An up-to-date record.
Exactly, that is the problem. That is one. And secondly, the issue is that, in fact, even the government and other people are complaining in the sense that your colleagues, when I mean your colleagues, I'm talking about the media, there is so much, we have been consistently inconsistent in reporting conflicts in this country because we are talking at cross purposes. That is why sometimes ago the Minister of Information and National Orientation was appealing that we should not glorify or eulogize these criminal elements. And but you must report. But the truth is that, again, we don't have a system in place that interrogate or kind of template. Whenever you are reporting conflicts, these are the things that you should look out for. So that is why you have the issues that you are having. And I think the state government was quite right in the sense that they have given a number, and 137, right?
Yeah, they say the ones that have been rescued are the only ones that have been abducted.
Exactly.
And that the earlier speculated number or reported number of 208.
Except for the teacher that died.
Yeah.
So basically, in the absence of any other evidence, what else will you take? But that is the truth, because I know for sure that they had been monitoring it. I mean, right from when they were abducted in Kuriga up to the time when they crossed to Zamfara State, and for, I think, over a week. Precisely, they know. It's just that to avoid collateral damages, and I think, again, we have to give kudos to the security agencies because they are perfecting, their rescue operations over time. And I don't pray, I don't hope for such reoccurrence, but I can tell you it will even be better than this.
Yes, you're saying that our operatives are more surgical now, and so these operations like this is possible.
It has happened, not that it's possible. So basically that is it, and that is one of the learning lessons, and it goes back again to the issue of interagency cooperation, collaboration, and of course the coordination itself. You look at the whole tiers of government, the federal and state and other, security architectures were on the same page and they are working hand in glove. And that is what is needed in dealing with such situation. But that is another issue. But most importantly, this kind of thing occurs simply because we laid the foundation for it. First, we neglected the policing system in this country over time, and that is why we are paying the price as it is. Then secondly, and most importantly, again, we have 3 tiers of governments in this country, the federal, state, and the local government. We all know that the local government system is not working. And that is why we would have had the issue of being far more proactive in Kuriga, because if the local government, the people or the community or the people of Kuriga would have been closer to the local government and things could have been done. But now everything is lumped up to the state.
So who is to blame, in that midst of the local government not really working?
I think the issue of blame, you know whom to blame. Because I know over time since 1999 there were efforts to, is it amend or tinker with the constitution to ensure. And in fact, there were even the presidential directive about local government autonomy. Right. And you know where the autonomy issue ended. So basically, you know the person to blame. But I can tell you, unless we ensure autonomy of local government in this country, we'll continue to have the same problem because they act as buffer. Because in fact, during my studies, when I was doing master's program, I have had instances of going to Colombia, interact with facts. And of course, we interacted with the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, as well as Hezbollah in Lebanon. One thing was clear. They are always coming up, all these non-state actors and violent extremists and all the rest of them, they are always filling a vacuum. A vacuum, especially in the welfare system, socio-economic well-being of the society. Take, for instance, these bandits, as you are seeing them, so much as the government is giving out palliatives, they also give palliatives. And you know the menace of informants is being sustained simply because of the inability of these teeming youth to assess soft loans or better things to do with themselves. So somebody will come up with a loan of maybe 50,000 or 10,000 that could have solved his problem. And of course, he who pays the piper dictates the tunes. So basically that is, but if the system, if the local government system is working and the councillors and the local government chairman are up and doing, people will relate to them very well. So the time-tested complete resolution mechanism at that local level will be very effective. And of course, the socio-economic well-being of the citizens will also be improved, because all the security challenges that you are talking about, they are predicated on three things: the political atmosphere, the economic well-being, and the social well-being of the society. So long as these things are not working, then you continue to have the same problem.
Right. Right. And in talking about, leading to Sumaya's point about, who do we hold responsible, we have the Safe School Initiative that is supposed to, by design, address these gaps, right? There are communities that are in quote-unquote ungoverned spaces where you don't have the presence of the Nigerian police or the Nigerian military because of the remoteness of such areas. You could say kuriga, fits the bill. But give me a sense of what you make of the strategy, especially knowing fully well that for the past 10 years and counting, these type of localities, these type of schools are easy targets for these bandits, for these terrorists to always attack. And it doesn't appear like we have an answer to it, like we're always reacting to, these developments when they happen.
No, I think the issue is, I talked about consistently being inconsistent. And I think beyond that also there are issue of holy system assaults. If you look at the issue of the Safe School Initiative, when was it established? In fact, the question is it even working? But it is not just the Safe School Initiative. There are other initiatives that, we just mouth them. We don't follow through. And that is why we're having the problems we are having. Now, even at that instance, you look at the implication of establishing more schools in remote areas, even though education should be a fundamental right of every citizen, especially our young ones. Now, you have to look at the security situation or the prevailing security situation in a particular community vis-a-vis the establishment of the school. And it is just like any other conflict intervention program. You just have to also ensure that the citizens or the host community or the benefiting community are taken on board. Is that their priority? But even if it is their priority, to what extent will you be able to sustain or maintain and secure it? Because we have had instances, some of these schools are abandoned and the terrorists or the bandits make them a safe havens. So you thereby empowering them as against empowering the people. So had they been that the Safe School Initiative was followed through, we could have been dealing with this issue, because it could have been further being complemented with recruitment of more human resources in the security architecture. Is it the police, or is it the civil defense, or is it the military, or even the myriads of the security outfit by the various state governments? So these are the issues. So there should be a kind of a holistic approach to the issue. But most importantly, again, we realize that initially we are talking about interagency collaboration, cooperation, and we are talking about a whole state's approach to all these issues. But now I think we have to move a little bit further to go to a whole nation approach to all the security challenges, in the sense that everything that will add value to enhance the security of this country should be brought on board. And that includes, interrogating the security architecture itself. To what extent do we have the number? Do they have the equipment? Do they have the logistics? What of their administration and general welfare? Take, for instance, you look at the policing system. What is the takeaway home of an average police officer? Within the last 5 years, what is the training? What is the equipment holding for him or her, as the case may be, to be able to deal with the security challenges of the 21st century? Then to what extent are we imbibing technological development in all these things? Because yes, agreed, we have so many, we have vast land. It's not everywhere that could be covered by human beings. So to what extent are you using intelligence? What is the level of investment? So these are the issues that we have to look at. And unless there is political will to follow through all these things, we will keep on talking from now till kingdom come. We will not achieve the desired result.
Speaking on talking, General, I mean, one of the major things that especially the police have come out to complain is the lack of numbers. They don't have enough numbers to cover people. And one thing that got people really curious is how many people can be shipped, like literally, it's like the kidnappers are the shepherd, and then they wheel a lot of people in large number. Before we hear of kidnapping, it would be like a person has been kidnapped, something that could be done even in open place, but then quietly. But then right now, they're calling about, like the one that happened in Borno State, about 400 people were moved. And you start thinking of the vast land that you mentioned earlier, saying, okay, in the northern part of Nigeria, we have a lot of, a big, huge land, covered in forestry. But then still, how did we get here where a large number of people would be moved, from one state to another without being, caught immediately, without someone seeing it and reporting it immediately? How did we get here?
It's the answer lies back to what we have been saying, the inability to follow through policies. I made reference to the Safe School initiative. Over time, had it been that it was followed through, all the lapses could have been noted, and we keep on improving as the security challenges keep on evolving. That is one. And secondly, again, the lack of involvement of the other components of Nigerian society. And that is why we're advocating for, a whole nation approach. There are certain people, take for instance, let's even look at kuriga as the case may be. What is the level of relationship between the local ward head, the district head, the local government chairman, and the security establishment within that area? Remember, there was even a police post, a police station, but it is no longer there. So these are the issues. We don't involve the people in issues that directly affect them, so that because it's just like anything else. There are people along the value chain. You cannot just wake up overnight and think that you are going to abduct even a single person without involving other people. Because in the first place, what is the motive? Yes, we have violent extremists who have skewed religious belief, for instance. They want to make a point. But then again, that kidnapping has become a lucrative business. People are benefiting from it. So the people that do the kidnapping, the people that give the information, the people that provide the logistics, and the people that negotiate, and the people that invest the ransom. Because I just can't imagine somebody will be working with large sum of money on him or her in the bush. So you have to interrogate all those things and look at the level of relationship, who benefits what, and to see to what extent you can mitigate that. But most importantly, again, we have vast borders that are porous, and we have the proliferation of small and medium arms, apart from the local manufacturing. But most importantly, again, the employment opportunities are not there. And one of the staying powers of the Nigerian society, it is not even the mineral resources, the abundant human resources. An average Nigerian can do wonders. And that is why once you take him or her out of this environment, they excel. So to what extent are we taking advantage of that to ensure that people are properly catered for in terms of education, in terms of, employment opportunities, so that they can channel their energy, God-given talents, toward positive things as against negative things. So these are the reasons why we got to where we are. And unless we address them, we will still be doing that. And most importantly, you know it. We all know it, that Nigerians are suffering. So, what are you doing to improve the well-being of Nigerians so that they will not be tempted? For instance, one of the staying powers of these bandits and criminal elements is the menace of the informants. How did you come to that? Is simply because there are no alternatives. It is a young man who is well talented, he's so frustrated. Somebody will come and give him money. Today, tomorrow, next tomorrow, he will come with a demand, and it will be very difficult. Or it could be somebody with a family that he has to feed. Now he finds it very difficult. Value system and principles will be, downplayed, because you just have to make a living. So these are some of the issues.
The variables are quite so many, General. But in talking about where we are currently, this decade and a half insecurity that we're dealing with, that metamorphosed from the Boko Haram insurgency to now the banditry, not just across northern Nigeria, but also the insecurity in different parts of the country, especially in the southwest, for instance. For some people, experts like yourself, the military is a square peg in a round hole. While it does have the ability to address this particular challenge, it is mainly a policing problem. As you did state earlier, that the policing structure itself has not lived up to expectation. The performance is below average, to say the least, and that's why the military has to step in to mitigate and augment where the Nigerian police is unable to address some of those gaps. And we've seen this now become the main theater of the Nigerian military over the past 10 years and counting. The issues have continued to multiply. We've seen more theaters of operations across the 36 states of the Federation than we've ever seen, in this country. Give me a sense of how we can scale this back, because recently the Nigerian Senate was talking about recruitment into the Nigerian police force to scale up its manpower so that the military will be deactivated or disengaged from these theater of operations, and the police would once again take the leading role in policing the internal security of the country. Apart from that, also is the clamor yet again from the National Executive Council, Economic Council of the country, where governors have again drummed up support for the creation of state police as a panacea to this national security crisis that we're faced with. What is your take on this? Beefing up the policing capabilities of the Nigerian police force, as well as the issue of state police as a panacea to this endemic problem.
I earlier said that we are where we are in terms of security challenges simply because of the fact that we neglected our policing system. And I would like to reiterate this fact that there are countries in this world that do not have armed forces, but there is no single country without police, even the Vatican. Therefore, I think we have to retrace our steps and reinvest and critically evaluate our policing system. It might not necessarily be only the Nigerian police force, but the whole policing system, the police itself and other, paramilitary agencies. Do we have the adequate number? and what is the level of investment per year and over time in terms of the number, in terms of training, in terms of equipment. And unless we do so, we will still go back to that. And you look at it, in those days, we don't even have the elaborate structures that we were having before. Before, it was just, there was no police council anyway. There was only the Inspector General of Police, the Commissioner of Police, the DPOs, and the outpost. And Nigeria was world scaled. But now you have the Inspector General of Police, the Police Council, Ministry of Police Affairs, the Police Service Commission, then you have the zonal commands, and you have the area commands, then you have the divisional command, then you come to the outposts. So much structure, and yet the society is less secure. So I think we have to critically reevaluate that. What is the responsibility of the zonal command? What is the responsibility of area command? Do they have the human resources? Do they have the equipment? Do they have the logistics? And by the way, we are just paying lip services to these issues. Way back 2018, the time when we interrogated the internal security framework and policing, community policing in this country, an average divisional police officer, what does he get as his administrative or running cost per month? Meager 14,000 naira. Now, over time, we are not even talking about now that there is inflation. Do you think that is adequate? Even here in Abuja, for instance, the DPO in Wuse, what will he do with 14,000? We are not even talking about the one in Kubwa or the one in Nyanya, for instance. These are the issues.
You're saying the police is grossly underfunded.
Exactly. So it is not just the number. We are talking about the number, the funding, the equipping, and the training. Unlike in the military, I know you cannot reach certain rank without going through certain courses. Is it the same thing with the police? And again, when you are talking about policies and strategies and, strategic directions, we have the Nigeria Police Council. It's a constitutional provision. For the last 20 years, how many times has it sat? And all the state governors are members. Had it been that they sit as at when due, some of these issues could have been raised and could have been dealt with. So this is it. And unless we do that, we'll continue to have the same problem. Apart from that, I'm coming. Yeah. Now, you look at the mobile police force. Where are they? In fact, there was a suggestion some time back that, look, all they have to do is to withdraw some of these policemen. Let them reactivate Gov't and other mobile police training schools. Let's have quite a number of them to go through the training. The Nigerian Army Resource Center, we made a recommendation that, look, by the time we send in about 1,000 well-trained, well-kitted mobile policemen, they will be able to deal with these security challenges. What happened in Kuriga after the kidnap incident? It was the mobile police that were sent. So they are still relevant. So we ought to have these layers of policing duties, so that even among the police, there are those routine duties and there are those that are special duties police. Then, of course, there's others that will complement the effort of the policing system. And unless we do that, we'll continue to have the same problem that we are having. So the starting point is to make sure that we have the numbers, we have the training, we have the funding, we have the equipment of the police.
So where are you with regards to the whole idea of state police? Because it is becoming the most popular prescribed solution to the current insecurity that we're faced with as a country.
You see, the police, the state police issue is so contentious, but I think if you critically evaluate what I had said earlier, you ought to have understood where I stand. Take, for instance, we tend to jettison policies over time. What happened to the community policing system that was launched in 2014? And studies were carried out, recommendations were made. In fact, there were efforts So all these things, the state security outfit could have been subsumed into the policing, the community policing system, which is basically to provide information and intelligence. And the best practices we have seen in other countries, take for instance, my study group went to Ghana. They have the community policing system in which they report to the DPO. So there is clear chain of command, and in terms of administration, in terms of operation. And any time they are taking normal police, they will give them what you call the first right or refusal. You know, they pick from the community.
The constabulary right now.
Well, basically that is it. So I think it is not issue of community policing, but I think proper coordination of all the security outfits. Or it is not issue of state police, but integrating them and harmonizing them, and let there be a clear-cut chain of command and relationship. I think the issue of state police or not state police will definitely be put to rest. But most importantly is for us to really make sure that we improve the well-being of the society, right, and integrate them into the security architecture, because each and every one of us has a role to play.
Indeed. All right, let's talk about something that has also been, informed, or something that has been shown to Nigerians, is the fact that among these terrorists, these bandits perpetrating villages and communities, there's been speculations that some are not even from Nigeria, especially, the one from Borno, Maiduguri, sharing borders and all of that. So in terms of national security perspective now, how do you think, what best border strategies should be implemented? Because earlier you started pointing out the land and also the border, how all of this affects the insecurity in Nigeria. So what best solution should be used when it comes to border, the strategies that should be used, as an expert, of course?
Yeah, you see, the thing is that we are talking about holistic approach, including, it is not just physical security, so to speak, but there should be constructive engagement with our neighbors and coordination of the activities. Take, for instance, we have a border community commission. Is it working? In fact, we have had instances, these border communities, they rather go to the other countries than coming to Nigeria to access medical or healthcare systems. It shouldn't be so. And then again, what's in our security architecture is there to secure our borders? Is it the Nigerian Immigration Service, or is it the Nigerian Custom that is under the Ministry of Finance? Then to what extent have you integrated the border communities to have a greater sense of belonging as Nigerians? You know that in case of anything, this is what they should do. This is whom they should report to. And we have had instances, for instance, gravely or sadly, that some of the border communities, the leaders, the community leaders, their social activities are being funded by smugglers. These are the issues. But of course, we have to look at the historical and cultural relationship and take into cognizance interest in what is happening in the neighboring countries. Take, for instance, in Chad. Chad has been acting as a buffer zone because more or less Sudan is becoming a failed state. Access to Red Sea, that you can access weapons just like you access granates on the streets. And of course, they will find their way, the weapons here. So we need to look at it critically and bring everybody on board, the security architecture, including the Foreign Affairs Ministry and everybody else, the border community. So it is not just kind of one-off solution. Then you improve the capacity of those security agencies that are statutorily responsible for the security of our borders. What is the level of, what do you call it, helicopters, in the immigration, in the police, or in the custom? And what is the relationship in case if they need support with the Nigerian Air Force to intercede? So these are the issues.
Right. And General, you talk about this holistic approach. I wonder what your reading is of the current state of affairs. Do you get a sense that that is what is happening right now? that we're trying to be holistic about the approach. We're trying to address these funding gaps. We're trying to address the bureaucracy that is not working. We're trying to troubleshoot our relationship with, stakeholders from within and outside the country. What is your assessment of how, the current trajectory is looking like?
I think it's a work in progress,
Right.
in the sense that given what happened recently with the rescue of the abducted school children of Kuriga and of course the Zenga, there is improved cooperation, coordination and decisive leadership on the part of those that are statutorily responsible for the security and safety of citizens of this country, right from the president down to the state governors, down to the military hierarchy, particularly the chief of defense staff and the other service chiefs, Air Force and Navy. They have been working, and Nigerian Army and other security components. And we want to have excellent cooperation, collaboration and coordination among those components. It is not just enough that ministers should just be meeting on Wednesdays at Federal Executive Council and that's the end of it. There should be interministerial interface. But it is not even just the ministries, even the security agencies. There should be continuous training jointly and in fact interface. And I've seen a lot of visitations on the part of the military hierarchy to various ministries, departments and agencies, and that is how it's supposed to be. Let there be that kind of, you don't have to wait for crisis to happen before you remember that you have somebody in media trust. No, right. There should be continuous constructive engagement so that there will be improvement in terms of sharing of intelligence and information. And it is not just enough, the government on its own part should make sure that they equip the responders, because whenever they receive the information, they act expeditiously on it.
Yeah, General, you clearly seem to be on the side of the rescue attempts, while many Nigerians seem to think that there was an under-the-table arrangement that led to the release of these 137 students. However, we've seen this, happen, back to back. The Sokoto Sangaya students that were kidnapped just last week were also rescued by the Nigerian military. Does this give you cause to be optimistic about, the message we're sending to these bandits? Because they're not going to stop, clearly. We don't anticipate it, as a public. We hope that, there will be no more attacks, but I think hope is not a strategy as far as security is concerned. Give me a sense of where you think this is leading to, because the statements were quite very clear about collaboration. The Kaduna state government was, clear about it to state that, they appreciate the efforts of the agencies involved. The DHQ in the statement also identified all the other assets that they used for the release of this, or rescue of this 137 school children. Where do you see this relationship going, especially as far as collaboration is concerned? Because over the years, we've had to deal with issues of lack of interagency collaboration. To some extent, we're even hearing interagency rivalry or so in the media. And the president was very categorical during the inauguration of the service. He said, I don't want any rivalry between any of the agencies. Work together in synergy to deliver the objective. Is that what you think is happening here?
I told you it's a work in progress, and of course I told you also that there has been improvement, and I believe we are moving towards more improvement before we even reach excellent cordial relationship among these people. And going back to what you have said, I'm very, very much optimistic in the sense that we know the actors, and when I mean actors, I'm talking about the state actors. We can pinpoint to the commitment and the sense of enthusiasm on the part of the various commanders in the field, the directors in the field, and of course the service chiefs. We have seen them, the commitments. And in fact, I could remember we were trying to get some of these people. They had been in the bush. They had been in the bush, depriving themselves. I told you at the beginning that the military knew, they followed. and they knew where exactly these children were kept. So if there was no collaboration, if there was no commitment, if there was no sense of direction, it wouldn't have been so. So it was heartwarming news that within a short period of time, even though even a few hours of captivity is not something that one would have wished for, but the truth is that there was tremendous improvement, and we have to give kudos to all those that have had in it, and we keep on encouraging them and supporting them to continue to do the best they could in that regard. But most importantly, the government has showed commitment, concern, and leadership, and that is what is expected on the part of all those in position of authority. Because in most cases, this lack of sense of direction give room to some of this lacuna that you have had in the past. But if there were clear directives, and of course you follow through and make sure that you keep on monitoring and evaluating and giving the sense of direction, it would have been better. So I think we need to keep on improving on it, and at the same time making sure that we galvanize and mobilize the whole Nigerian society to be on the same page, that we are facing an existential threat. Take, for instance, in the Northwest, people can no longer access their farms. Children can no longer, even if they go to school, is with fear and apprehension. It shouldn't have been so. So when we mobilize the whole Nigerian society, we should not be talking at cross purposes. Take, for instance, some of your colleagues, when I say your colleagues in the media, they are busy in fault finding. I think the most important thing, journalism is about development. To what extent can we contribute and make the system? I'm not saying that you should not report things that are bad, but you should not go the extra mile of finding fault when people are focused. Take, for instance, a commander in the field should not be concerned about those mundane things. Let him be supported, let him be encouraged to ensure that he or she delivered, that mission, or secured the objective, as the case may be. Because we have had instances, actually, that some were all not on the same page with what is happening. And you cannot practice journalism, you cannot practice any kind of profession if in an atmosphere of uncertainty, in an atmosphere of conflict. So, in a whole, Nigerians should be made to understand that security in this country is a collective responsibility. Even though there are lead agencies, even though people have to give sense of direction, but everybody has a role to play. We should be able to understand that we need to, in any way positive, to contribute so that Nigeria will be better.
All right, we hope we get to that point. I mean, one thing we'll definitely give Nigerians so far kudos for is that so far community policing has also been taking place. So yes, thank you so much for your time, Brigadier General Sani Kukasheka Usman, retired. Appreciate your insight.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning.